Welcome to chaos here in my generator shed. Generator slash workshop slash tools slash everything. Storage. Chaos. You're only seeing one part of it here. But yeah, it's everything stuffed in here. But this here is my generator. And this powers the whole property. Obviously, it's not on right now. So in other words, what's powering the property right now? The charged batteries. So I wanted to explain a bit in this video how an off-grid system can look like. And anyway, this is the heart of the power system, my 6 kilowatt diesel generator. It has quite a few hours of runtime on its engine already, and there have been many parts replaced. The water pump failed, and the brushes, that's a normal thing. They have to be replaced every so and so often to make contact and actually create energy. Yeah, there was a coolant leak, and, belts need to be replaced. And of course, I do my regular oil changes, which I've showed you in one of the other videos. So you can check that out. Generator oil change to me is kind of like a meditation. I don't know why. It's just something quiet to do. And I don't know. I always try to see the positive in even the mundane tasks. This is the way I handle this. But today, this is actually a talk about my off-grid power system, which this is a part of. But I also want to talk about the ups and downs of living off-grid, because a lot of people have this feeling that off-grid living is the answer to all their problems. And it might be, but it also creates a whole another set of problems. And I can attest to that. Living here since 2003 on this property, I definitely had my share of problems here, and they needed to be solved. So one of the problems that we had not too long ago was that suddenly, whenever this generator would stop because the batteries had their fill, they've reached 100%. The auto shut off, which is here on the wall, it automatically recognizes when the generator has to start and when it has to turn off. So once the batteries are reaching 100%, the generator will automatically turn off. However, the problem I had was the power went out. I mean, every time the power would go out. And it took months to actually figure out why. And that is a little bit more complicated with my lithium batteries, because they don't have a way for me to see if the cells within the battery are all leveled up. And this is definitely a flaw in the batteries that I have. And the company also didn't really take accountability or didn't even talk about this. So in deep cycle batteries, which we used to have before the lithium batteries, you have to once in a while let the generator run beyond 100%. And that's called equalizing. So what it does is the cell levels of the battery, of all the batteries, have to come up to the same level. Because over time, with many, many charge cycles, the batteries can become uneven. And in deep cycle batteries, you actually have a little tool, put some of the battery acid in there, and then you look through a glass, and it tells you where the battery is sitting. And that tells you if an equalizing charge is necessary. Well, I was under the assumption that once we got the lithium batteries, that wouldn't be an issue anymore, because I was basically told these are maintenance free. And I guess they are to an extent maintenance free. But like I said, my power was out every time the charge cycle was done. And well, that can't be right. It never did that before. In 4.5 years, it was fine. And suddenly those batteries were acting up. They also weren't providing power for as long as they usually would last. And there was another indicator that something was off. it took months to really figure out what the issue was with these lithium batteries. And as it turns out, I have 2 big lithium batteries. Within each battery are cells again, and in a way they also become uneven, and you can measure this if you had a proper mode for that, which I don't have on my batteries. So anyway, now I do, because this was installed afterwards. Basically, every cell of the lithium batteries is now tapped into, and you can read the voltage. And guess what we found out? A huge imbalance between each of these cells. So no wonder the battery couldn't hold as much of a charge. In other words, the generator had to run more often. And also no wonder the batteries were acting up. In other words, putting the power out every time the generator would stop. So quite annoying, because obviously that can happen in the middle of the night. And if it's winter, you have to get up and you have to come out here and you have to turn the Toyo stove here back on, because this generator seems to be a Hawaii model that only wants to start when it's warm enough in the generator shed. Well, in any case, who likes to get up in the middle of the night? But that's fixed now, because I have a tool now that measures each of these cells within the lithium batteries. And we did an equalizing charge. It's actually not called equalizing in this case, but balancing. It's the same thing in a way. It's just for lithium batteries. And now it works. Now my charge is back up, and I run the generator every, 2.5 to 3 days at the moment, because it's not quite summer yet, and my solar isn't, utilized as much as it is in the summer times. So yeah, I'm very thankful that that was fixed, but boy, did it take a long, long time. And I wished that company who sold these batteries would have fessed up, because this is apparently an issue that's happening with many other customers. I was one of them. And I wished they would have said something. Well, anyway, one problem solved, but there are so many things one has to learn with these off-grid power systems. It is a high learning curve in the beginning. And even now, to be honest, I oftentimes don't find the exact words that match these descriptions that I have here to truly explain what's going on. Troubleshooting is nerve-wracking sometimes. When it works, and then I'm so thankful. But if it doesn't work, wrecks my brain. I will take you outside so we can talk a bit in the daylight, and we don't have to stand here in a dark shed. I have a light. I don't know why I didn't turn on the light. Well, that'll be a blooper. Anyway, let's walk outside. One of the fun things that you can have when you live off-grid, and there aren't a lot of property covenants, rules, you can have chickens. We have chickens. We used to have a few more, but now we are left with 5 older chickens, and they still lay eggs. They don't lay eggs in the wintertime because it's just too cold and too dark, and it throws off their rhythm, obviously. But they just started laying eggs again, so that's fun to see. And they are hardy animals. I mean, one wouldn't think they can survive 20 below, but they do. I have a little bit of a heater in the chicken coop, which they can crawl underneath. But just the fact alone that they sit next to each other, close to each other, it keeps them warm. And then I do break the wind a little bit. In the wintertime, I put some plexiglass up so that they don't get the full force of a winter storm right into their chicken coop. In the summer, I take it off so that there's a good ventilation, because that's equally important to keep chickens healthy. So yeah, it's fun to have chickens. We have fresh eggs, and nothing beats a fresh egg like that. It is nothing in comparison to the store-bought eggs. No comparison. These chickens are getting a little bit old now, so we'll see how many more years they're going to lay eggs. But they're also our pets, and they're goofy and funny, and they have names. So yeah, we're not going to eat them. They're our pets. In the summertime, I will install rain gutters on one of the cabins, and then I set up my rain barrels to collect rainwater. And I do that because I don't want to use the well water, because that means using power. And obviously, I always try to see where can I save on power. This here is my well. I think it's 97 feet deep, and it produces really good tasting water. Water in Alaska is very iron rich. So the sediments that come with this, obviously, they will stain your bathtub or your sinks, and even your laundry will come out a bit orange, unless you have a water filtering system. So I have one that is a water softener, and I also have an iron out. And that has made a huge difference in the way the water looks and feels. So my hair looks better. That's probably the softener. But I don't have to clean my bath appliances as much. My shower I used to get orange pretty much after a week. And this was especially an issue with my guest cabin, because obviously you don't want to offer an orange shower that is orange from the rust. And now that I have my water filtering system, it has made a huge difference in how often I have to deep scrub the showers. Yeah, it's definitely saving me some time. The heaters will obviously take power too. They are powered by electricity, and they will take diesel fuel, heating fuel. They do take quite a bit of electricity. It's one of those things that takes more electricity than other appliances. Simply to be on, it's about 100 watts. And if they're running, meaning heating, then they can go up to 300 or more. So to offset some of those costs for power, which in a way means running the generator, and the cost of heating fuel, which is really expensive here in Alaska. To offset that, we have firewood. We supplement with wood heat. And that's a lot of work. So off-grid living in that sense is definitely tough work. Once a year, in August usually, we rent a log splitter. It's a gas-powered log splitter. And then for 2 days, all day, we split wood. And then for many days after, I'm the one who stacks the wood. So it's a lot of work. My dad, when he was still with us, he would actually slowly split wood by hand, and that would keep him fit. So that's one of those benefits, those pros of living off-grid, that you are always busy with something, with some project. And speaking of projects, this is a project that I have neglected. These trees here, these tree stumps, they are already peeled and ready to go and create a porch railing. Haven't gotten around to it yet. I collected a few more here because I know there's another porch railing that needs to be replaced at some point. So anytime I cut down a spruce tree, I usually collect the best of straightest looking branches or trunks. I don't know what you say there. Anyway, here are my logs that I will use for this new railing. Hopefully some of that will happen this summer, and I can show you how to build a log railing. Lots of work. Lots of work. I'm hoping to have some help with that. But anyway, projects, boy oh boy, do we have projects here. It's a never-ending thing. There in the wintertime, a lot of these projects are tarped, and as spring comes, it reveals the tarp, and then you're reminded, oh, there's another project I haven't gotten to this last summer. So some of those projects, they seem to be on the list for a few years because we just never get around to it. It's just so much maintenance to live here. The log homes just require a lot of maintenance. This property, this size is 5 acres, requires a lot of maintenance. Keeping it fire safe, a lot of maintenance. So yeah, it's a lot. And sometimes I think it's too much. And those are some of the reasons where I'm thinking maybe I should move. Maybe I should make it easy on myself and move to an on-the-grid property that has, regular electricity. And I don't have to think about a running generator or heating fuel costs in the sense that I'm thinking about it in terms of power supply. Yeah, pros and cons. So I'm thinking about maybe moving. Don't know yet. Here's one of those projects that I'm helping with. That's not even my project, it's my daughter's project. And she is renovating a school bus, tiny school bus. Another tarped project. These trees here, as beautiful as they are, and as much as I like the shade that they also create in the garden, they have to go. Because they are actually throwing a shade onto my solar panel over there. It's not such a big issue in the summer months because our sun is really high in the sky in the summer, the midnight sun. But the shoulder seasons and during the winter months, the sun will be very low, especially in the winter. And so these trees, they create a big shade on my solar panel. So these have to go. Right behind me here, this is my Airbnb guest cabin, and it's winterized right now. So all the water that is in the pipes has been released, and the pipes have been filled with glycol. Toilet too. And that prevents it, for the most part, from freezing. And once May arrives, mid-May, I have guests again, and then I have to prep everything, of course, clean it up, make it ready for a new season. Part of the trouble that I sometimes have is the water consumption. Most guests use a lot of water, and it makes me think that maybe with me living here for all these years off-grid, I have a better grasp on how much water we should be using. I would say we're water usage conscious. Once the guests are here, I have to constantly monitor the level of water I have in the house. I have 3 pressure tanks, and they fill with water when the pressure gets too low. That's an automatic thing. But to be honest, when guests are here, I keep an eye on it, and then oftentimes I will start the well pump earlier than it actually has to be started, to just not even let the water level go down, that pressure go down to that point where, you would perhaps feel it in the cabin. I want my guests to have the best possible experience. So I just click the button and turn the well pump on, and then they don't even feel a thing. But it does require us to take showers at certain times. So when the guests are not here, then we will make sure we use the water that we need. And when the guests are here, we usually don't take a shower. I don't do a wash. I just wait until the guests are out and about on their adventures or checked out. Then it's time for me to run a wash anyway, because I have to obviously clean the bedding and all those things that come with being an Airbnb owner. Being an Airbnb owner off-grid definitely comes with its challenges. And I know there are some solutions that would improve the water situation, but I only have a very small utility room. There's no room to add any more water containers to make that work. So I guess we're just dealing with it the way it is. But yeah, it makes it a bit challenging sometimes, having guests here. One of the advantages of living off-grid is that we don't get the power outages like other people here in Alaska, especially in the wintertime. There are so many power outages. Trees will land on the power lines and, well, that cuts the power. And yeah, this affects many, many people. And what that also means is they are in cold homes. They might lose all their freezer contents or, refrigerator contents. So it's costly to have these power outages. We don't have that. Unless my power system has an issue, obviously. But I have a backup generator too. So even if the big generator, my diesel generator, has an issue, I can, for a few hours or even a few days, run the backup generator, which is fuel-powered, gasoline-powered. So yeah, it's for that matter, that's definitely a big pro to be off-grid in Alaska. One of the things you're going to notice when you live off-grid, the way I do, is, boy, do you have to pay a lot in suspension repair. So trucks definitely suffer from these roads, the back roads that we need to take to get to this property. I'm not going to say that it's not maintained. It's a maintained road and it's accessible year-round. It's not like I am off-grid in that sense of being detached from the road system. Off-grid to me is not on an electrical grid. So we produce our own power, as you know. But boy, oh boy, these back roads, our roads are most definitely maintained last. That even comes to snow removal, same thing. We are usually the last road to get plowed out. So that can mean you're stuck for a few days, which is fine. We usually have enough food in our freezer or in the pantry. Hasn't bothered us. Being snowed in isn't a bad thing. It's never longer than a day or two. And then the road crews will come through and, leave a big berm at the end of my driveway. Which I then have to tackle with my snowblower. And you've seen that in one of my videos, how I'm using my snowblower Hank. Hank is really powerful, and unlike the old snowblower, Hank can actually blow through that icy berm that's being made by the road graders. So, yeah, I'm happy to have Hank. Up here, this is my leach field area. I have a new septic system and leach field that has the appropriate size for my property. The old leach field, it failed. I am going to plant a garden on top of the leach field. I used to have gardening boxes in my old garden, but now that everything has been revamped, I'm going to create something new. And gardening in Alaska is also not that easy. It so much depends on what you add to the soil, to make the soil proper for certain vegetables. You certainly have to amend, because the soil that we have here, there's maybe, this much of good soil, and the rest is very silty earth. And that just cannot grow anything, really. So you have to amend and create the good soil in your garden boxes. And that's the plan for this next summer. So with all those pros and cons that I've mentioned in this video, the pros and cons of living off-grid, as I age, I have to say I'm thinking I'm almost done living off-grid, because there's just a lot more work involved with this lifestyle. And because I'm going through divorce right now and there is no helper, to do it all on my own, I just don't want to. I just don't want to. It's becoming too much work. I have to admit, some of these things can be romanticized, and I know a lot of people do that online on YouTube. They'll tell you about all the positive ways of living off-grid, and there certainly are. Obviously, I showed you in this video that there are some advantages. You are independent from others. You are not reliant on the local electricity company to restore power in the wintertime when everybody's out of power. Well, I'm not going to be out of power, right? But with the problems that do come with it, and the brain-wrecking trying to come up with a solution for, either deep cycle battery issues or generator issues or now lithium battery issues. It's just a never-ending topic to keep this property running. And that's just the nature of it. But I'm questioning, do I want to be part of that? Do I still want to do this? So yeah, I'm rethinking my life and how easy it could perhaps be if I would just simply rent. I know that my property also creates an income for me because I have an Airbnb there. Not that it makes all that much money. It's barely enough to pay for the house insurance and the extra policy that I need in order to even have an Airbnb. It's ridiculously expensive. So sometimes, the math still works out. Obviously, it's still worth it to do it. But it's also a lot of work. And I'm stuck at home because of that. Airbnb. I guess you always have to be there. It's only summer seasonal because of that reason too. Because in the winter time, I need to focus on helping the kids, or now just my son, with homeschool. And even that is a little bit less now because he's, in 9th grade, soon in 10th grade. And he doesn't need all that much help from me anymore. He definitely knows how to learn. That's definitely the advantage of being a homeschooler. You learn that pretty early on, how to learn. And then, boy, the world is open to you, isn't it? But aside from that, maybe 3 more years there, if all goes well. And then I'm thinking about completely changing my life. Slow down for adventure is gonna be the topic. I can't wait, honestly. Having had all this responsibility, especially in the last years where I felt abandoned, having to do all of it on my own pretty much, or having to ask for help when help should have just been there. Losing my dad and caretaking for him before he passed away, losing our dog, all in that same year, and losing my in-laws in a way too, due to boundaries that I had to set. These are things you can watch in my previous videos. All of that has made me think, I think I'm ready for a big change. I need to start something to spice up my life. And I'm guessing that as soon as my son is settled with either college or an apprenticeship, hopefully in Europe, we'll see. Really depends on what he wants to do. I will support him either way, whatever his choice is. Once he's settled, then I want to move on. I want to try living as a nomad. I want to travel. I want to work from wherever I am, because it's a possibility I have with my job. Hopefully I can keep my job too. So many open questions, right? And there are no guarantees, obviously, but those are my wishes, and I'm working towards that. And it would be so great if you guys can follow along. Maybe this will entice you too to think about your life. Has it gotten too boring? Do you need to make a change? Do you want to make a change? What's holding you back? I've had so many things holding me back. Obviously, family first, right? But once I have taken care of my son, once he's 18 and ready to go and to college or apprenticeship, because that's what I want from them. I want them to learn something, choose a profession. Once he's settled into that new phase in life, then I will start my new phase in life. And if I'm lucky, this could be another 25 years of some fun, right? I just need to see more. Well, I love Alaska and will probably return in some way. Alaska has also shown me its negative sides. This is a beautiful place to live, but it's also a really tough place to live. And as you age, you can't do it alone. I don't want to do it alone. If I would meet someone, perhaps, don't think that's going to happen. But let's say I do, it will be tough to convince me to stay, even if I meet someone. Because I want to see the world. And I want to do it simply. And there are ways to do it. Why not try? And I've never been afraid to travel on my own. And now that I am over 50, and I will be well over 50 by the time 2028 arrives, I'm not afraid. Nobody looks at you when you're this age. We are invisible. And in a way, that's security. I've never felt afraid in any way, in any case, but this age makes it even easier. I'll blend right in with all the other invisible over 50 women. Yeah, I think that's it for the video. It would be so much fun if you comment. It would be fun if you subscribe, if you feel like this is a channel you want to continue watching. Like I said, more will come. I will share more about my off-grid living, but there will also be changes that you're going to notice over the years. And maybe you are part of that journey. Maybe you are on a journey like mine too, where you're making big changes. I'd love to hear from you. How do you feel going through those changes? And are you giddy or are you afraid? I'm both. But I always tell myself, well, then do it with fear. Just do it with fear then. Otherwise we're just stuck, right? Life's short. We better get going and get to living. And I'm ready for that. So, see you in the next video next Sunday. Bye.